Hi, Manchester sits on top of the Premier League table, but where is London? How is Liverpool faring? Will we see Hull City top after match day 3? Welcome to the preview of week 3 of the Premier League here on Citi 97.3 and on Citi TV. We are at the lovely Holiday Inn Hotel. My name is Nathan Quao. Benjamin Nketsia joins me for yet another week. Ben, it's gradually getting to week 3. We have 35 games left and very soon we'll be at the end of the season. But we already have another big game on our hands. It's Spurs welcoming Liverpool to the White Hart Lane. Now, this fixture last season produced Jurgen Klopp's first point. They drew goalless. I don't think we'll end up getting a goalless draw on Saturday. Spurs need the points. Liverpool need to react to Burnley's win last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch that horror show produced at Turf Moor, you think that Liverpool will be especially more cautious going into this game because now they sort of have laid down the marker about what people say about them. Liverpool will win the big games and lose the easy games. But trust me, a trip to Turf Moor is not easy. And a lot of teams will go there this season. I'm keeping an eye on how teams will perform when they visit Turf Moor.
The last time Burnley were in the league, yes, every now and then.
It was a very tough ground for teams to play at. And I mean, if you look at the parting of points or the parting of play from the newly promoted side, they seem to have come into the league with a lot of enthusiasm. Hull City picking up 2 wins on the bounce already. Middlesbrough, yes, 1 win, 1 draw. I mean, they have some big names in their team as well. So, I mean, it looks very different from the usual tough start for teams where teams have not reinforced their squads properly and they come into the season very confused. This time around, they look as if they've done their homeworks well and they are playing with a lot of freedom. So, I mean, for Liverpool, they will have to dig deep and Jurgen Klopp will have to close out at the back. I mean, like we've always been saying, Jurgen pressing is nice. It's nice to get the ball in your opponent's half, attack, but then you need to learn to shut up shop behind if you will contest with the big teams at the top come the end of the season. They need to keep it tight at the back. Klavan, the new centre back, I felt he was a bit on the wrong side of the age barrier, but I mean Jurgen Klopp feels that his experience will be valuable to this side. I believe that left back spot has been a problem spot for Liverpool for at least 4 seasons now, and they haven't done anything about it. I mean, if you take away Jose Enrique in his prime for Liverpool, and maybe Fabio Aurelio, Liverpool have had problems at left back ever since those two played really good at the left back spot. So, I mean, Joe Gomez would have been good compliments if he had played the whole of last season because we saw what he had to offer, and he looked brilliant. Alberto Moreno looks more like Marcelo in his early days at Real Madrid. Very good going forward, but very error prone and jittery at the back. They will need to sort out that particular position because it is certainly a strong side for Spurs. If you look at how they attack, Eric Lamela, Kyle Walker, Christian Eriksen sometimes switches on to the right hand side depending on how the attack is going. So Liverpool will definitely have problems on that left hand side.
I think it will be a huge test. We saw James Milner play at left back over the weekend, and he had to be cutting onto his right foot. Of course, defensively, I think that he was far better than Alberto Moreno, but going forward, Liverpool really couldn't provide much. But for Spurs, we saw them struggle to beat Crystal Palace last weekend. It was Victor Wanyama who scored. This is really Spurs' big first test of the season. Liverpool, we know they will play at tempo, but can Spurs keep them quiet? We know that Spurs normally start the season very slow, get into a rhythm. And we've seen how poor they are at putting big teams away. Last season, they drew 2-2 with Arsenal. In the derby, they should have won. They beat Man United, a convincing performance. They haven't done that regularly, but can Spurs find a good performance on Saturday against Liverpool, who want to react to that Burnley episode?
Well, it's interesting you talk about Spurs always getting off to a slow start, and I think that's what it really is. And for Mauricio Pochettino's men, he focuses usually on fitness in pre-season. So the finer details of his philosophy are usually developed throughout the period of the season. So I mean, it sort of explains why they always start slowly. But again, you want to look at a match against Liverpool, and they are the sort of team you don't want to play against if you have that slow start, momentum building sort of characteristic. They are the team that come out running out the gates, and that's what we've seen from them in pre-season. We saw it against Arsenal, and you know, Liverpool always need a reason to play, and they have a reason to play against Tottenham Hotspur. That reason, or that game against Burnley, had fans asking a lot of very critical questions about Jurgen Klopp and the project he's building. He has already said that the transfer window is a distraction to him, but I think that I think that
he just wants the window
to close. Really. Yeah, exactly. But for Mauricio Pochettino, really, they need to get a goal. They need to get on the creative side of things really quickly. They were last season's most attack-minded team in terms of chances created and goals scored, and also the best defense as well. They need to get their creative boots on. They've done more by way of direct play and crosses in the opening 2 games I've seen so far, which is curious because I always felt that they are a team that love to put the ball down and play. But I mean, they are playing a double pivot now, so I mean, it takes away something from the creative cracks of the team. So I think that should be a problem.
We'll see. So for Spurs, they are building up their team. Son still on the outside now that they've added more players. But let's move on to our second game of choice, and it's Hull City versus Manchester United. Now all of a sudden, Hull City have found great form. 2 out of 2, they are in the top half of the table. They face Manchester United, and all of a sudden, that particular tie looks very important to Manchester United because Hull are motivated. They've got Mike Phelan, who is an insider for Manchester United, managing them on an interim basis. It's Jose Mourinho going away from home again, but this time it's not against Bournemouth. I suspect it will be a difficult tie for Manchester United.
Well, it's good you mentioned a bit about Mike Phelan being an inside person because he knows through and through how United functions as a club, their pre-game routines, and more especially the pre-game routines and the psychology of key players within that United setup. For instance, what is Wayne Rooney likely to be thinking ahead of a big game like this? How do we disorient a Man United team that is travelling and playing a side they are unfamiliar with? Hull City coming in from the Championship. And basically, you look at Hull City's opening 2 games, and I think that they are playing with the freedom and the what I will call the energy galvanized by the sort of situation they find themselves in.
They are in the
right now. Yes. I mean, yes. They are in the middle of a possible takeover for the club. Only 13 players, we mentioned, 13 senior players and a couple of promoted guys from the junior team. So you know that as things stand now, the senior players have a very, very strong mentorship role to play within games and off the pitch as well. And I feel that they've played that so far really well, but this will be their big test. Man United side brimming with confidence. World's most expensive player, Paul Pogba, led the charts in take-ons already in the entire Premiership on his debut. Zlatan Ibrahimovic 3 goals in 2 already. So you know that this is a side that is coming into this game certainly with a chip on their shoulder. What do you do? I think that for Mike Phelan, you will look to defend very, very deep. Maybe in the first 20 minutes of this game, get your players to settle down, and then you can make more of a contest out of this. It will be certainly a counter-attacking play from them. I think that United have shown very quickly in their opening 2 games that they are a side willing to attack and willing to play adventurous football, even under Jose Mourinho, which is very, very unlikely.
It's very unlikely. But you know, if you draw similarities to his first Chelsea side, his Real Madrid side, his Inter Milan side, they had an attacking edge to them, and this United side seemed to know what to do better with the ball than under Louis van Gaal, if you like. So that should be a fantastic tie. And then there's Manchester City versus West Ham. West Ham got their first win over the weekend. Man City got their second. They went away from home. They faced a side who beat them at the Etihad. It was the start of that very shaky period for Man City. We saw that game, you know, Victor Moses leading the chart there. Can West Ham go and do a repeat, or Man City are so different now that the Hammers will not stand a chance at the Etihad?
Well, I look at Pep Guardiola's start to life in the Premiership, and it's been interesting. The first game was he tried to pull a tactical coup on his opponent, and then in the next game he went with a safer approach. But I still don't think that he's been tested enough for us to start throwing balloons and popping champagne over what he's done already. I feel that he will meet a side that is well drilled defensively in West Ham. And I think that West Ham were pretty impressive in their last win, especially if you look at the number of first-team players they are missing. But for West Ham this season, they will need those X-factor players aside their key players to step up for them. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Mikel Antonio. Yeah. He had what I would call a breakout season last time around. I mean, a lot of people still did not take notice. I feel that this is the time where he could put the stamp on his performances. He could go out there and sound the trumpets on what he's been doing.
Has he become a valuable part of the setup? Or it's just because people like Andrew Ayew and Dimitri Payet, Emmanuel Lanzini, and others are not around? I mean, should he become an important player? Even when those guys are around, should his name feature on a team sheet for what he can provide?
Certainly. Look at the numbers from last season. He scored over 5 goals playing as a right wing back. And you look at his build and his physique as a footballer, he offers you a lot, really. Deceptively fast for somebody his size.
Very quick.
I mean, very nimble feet as well. He can do a step over, he can cut in, he can shoot with his left foot, he can hit you from aerial position. So I think he really is the complete package. Plus the fact that he can play in multiple positions allows Slaven Bilic to use him in a number of areas. Right wing back is where we've seen him play. I've seen him go out and play as a right winger. He can come and play as a defensive midfielder or as a central midfielder. So, I mean, you can look to put him in a number of positions just to keep things interesting for your opponent. But certainly, he's one of those guys, age on his side as well. I would not be too surprised if he starts featuring in some Allardyce's plans for England very, very soon. But I think that he certainly is one key guy who will be sort of a glue guy to everything that they do this season, especially in the absence of their big players. West Ham, can they go out there and beat Manchester City? I certainly think so. If you look at last season, they took more points away from the top 4 than any other side in the league. Amazing run where giant killers. Yes. So the serial giant killers, I certainly expect them to pull 1 or 2 surprises. Will it be against Pep Guardiola? That would be very interesting. I'm not too sure about that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel that Manchester City might have a bit too much for West Ham. We saw how they played. I think Aguero has been good. And earlier in the week, I was making a point that I think it will be a straight shootout between him and Zlatan Ibrahimovic for top scorer. Of course, others will have other things to say. Kelechi Iheanacho, I think, should be getting more minutes in this Manchester City side. Raheem Sterling looks rejuvenated. Kevin De Bruyne, he's one player who I still think he's feeling his way into this team, trying to find his way around it. But so far, Man City have looked good. You think West Ham can get something? Well, we'll see. I think Manchester City will get something. So we are wrapping up here on the preview of Week 3, but we've got more games for you. Aside the 3 we've spoken about, there's Watford taking Arsenal in another London derby. So the Hornets head into another London derby. They lost 1 last weekend to Chelsea. Can they do better against Arsenal? And then there's West Brom versus Middlesbrough. The Barrow look absolutely great. 4 points from 2 games. Can they get another point? Can they win another one? Can West Brom upset the guys from the Championship? We wait, but all these games are live on Citi 97.3 on Saturday and on Sunday. And of course, we've got you locked on air, online, and on Citi TV.